the biggest problem that architects face, every architect who tells me they have issues charging high fees and all that type of stuff, and that there's a lot of competition and all this type of stuff, it's because you're not special. Well, you are special. Your mother told you you were special, and she was right. But when it comes to being an architect, until you make yourself special, you're going to be seen as just another architect, and that's the worst place to be seen, right? And this is stopping you from doing a lot of things, because there's a lot of people out there who are also saying they're special, and you need to understand this concept called the power pyramid. Okay, now I'm interested in power. I'm interested in giving you power, and this is the power pyramid, right? And as we go up the power pyramid, you get more and more power, and your income goes up as well. So at the bottom of the power pyramid, you kind of just see someone who's acting like a salesperson. They earn the least, there's nothing special about them, right? And then often in architecture, you become a specialist. And in fact, specialists are often salespeople. Those two categories are often together because they have to be, right? Then the next level up, where you can earn a bit more money and have more power, is you become a specialist, right? And above that, you become an expert and authority. And at the very highest end, you become a celebrity. So Peter Marino or a Frank Gehry or a Frank Lloyd Wright or a, any of those architect-y people, they earn the most. They're celebrities, right? Now you can become quite easily a specialist, right? And I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'll tell you about it right now. Okay, you can see here there's a whole lot of different things. Now this is the most basic way to move yourself up the power pyramid, is you pick what you're going to specialize in. No different to a doctor, all right? If I see a general practitioner, a GP, and suddenly that GP is not there one day at a clinic, chances are there'll be a locum there, and the locum will come over and the locum will inspect me and give their diagnosis. But the fact that a locum can come in and take over the job of the other GP who's away means that the GP is replaceable, right? The general practitioner is replaceable, and their income reflects the fact that they are replaceable by a locum. But if the specialist, the brain surgeon, is not available because he or she is sick, meetings get postponed until they're back. You can't, there's no locum brain specialist. They're all busy. There's only a few of them around. GP might earn $50,000, $100,000 a year if they're an employee. The specialist might earn $1 million a year, right? They're a specialist, they earn more. Okay, so you can pick any one of these things and just become a specialist in them, right? Now, I mean, that's the basic thing to do. Let's have a quick chat about being an authority, moving up beyond a specialist. Okay, now I've talked about, if you're just a generalist, you're a commodity, and when you're a commodity, you're often a humble servant. This is what I call architects who haven't got the mindset yet. They act like humble servants. Yes, sir, no, sir. There's a lot of competition, feed pressure, and long hours. Now, when you move into a monopoly position, you become an in-demand expert. Right? I'm going to give you some thoughts around becoming a monopoly. There's no competition. You can charge high fees. You can pick your hours because you can work on your terms. Okay, so let me give you I'll give you the theory behind becoming a monopoly. Right. This is obviously Bruce Lee. Right now, Bruce Lee claimed that traditional martial art techniques were too rigid to be effective in street fighting. So he was, I think he was born in San Francisco. He went to Hong Kong, he came back to San Francisco, but he used to live on the streets. He used to get in a lot of fights. And what he found was, he was taught Kung Fu. And what he found was that Kung Fu really only worked well if you're fighting someone else who's following the Kung Fu rules. As soon as people start fighting dirty, right, the Kung Fu, they'll just punch you in the face or something. So he created his own martial art called Jeet Kune Do, the style of no style. Think like water. So he wanted something which was far more flexible. So he created his own martial arts. Now, by claiming his own martial arts, practice or style. He created his own category. Now, what you don't want to be seen as just another architect where you're a commodity, right? Now, I shop at a local market, and any particular Sunday, I can walk along and I can see 5 stalls of bananas, and they all look pretty similar. Now, within 20 seconds, I can probably compare prices and find out which is the cheapest. And if all the bananas look the same or close enough, or if I can't tell the difference, then I might as well pick the cheapest, right? And now House is almost like a market where everybody's there. I'm not saying don't do it. You can, but just bear in mind when you put yourself into a fruit market where it's hard for people to see the difference, if you do get prospects and leads from it, a lot of them will be price shopping. Now, if you can combat that if you've got the tools and the strategies, but that's the issue you face. So normally I would say remove yourself from any meat market or vegetable market and create a new environment, selling environment where you align. You don't want to be lined up against 10 other architects, right? And you shouldn't be surprised if they price shop you. In a fruit market, you're nothing more than a banana. You're in a beauty competition with everybody lined up in equal fashion against the wall. So when I'm selling something, I never want to be comparable to 20 other people selling a similar service. I want to be special. My mother told me I was special, and I want to stay special. I want to be a scarce resource that everybody wants, but only I can provide, because then I've got power, okay? So you do want to be someone special. So what we have done with many architects is get them to create a new category. And in fact, same in religions, actually. I sitting beside a guy on a plane from San Diego to Los Angeles, and he was a pastor at a church, and he was a Lutheran. And I said, look, I don't know much about religions. Give me the rundown on Lutheranism. And he said, yeah, sure. And this is what I think he said. He said in the 1600s, there were Catholics, and you could sort of buy your way, absolve yourself of your sins if you paid the priests a lot of money, and they would forgive you in the eyes of God. And people were getting a bit sick of this compromising of standards. So this guy, Martin Luther, came up with, his way of how it should be done. And he posted it on the door of his church, and it said, here's the way it should be done. And a lot of people read it and said, yeah, we agree. This is the standard we think it should have. You shouldn't be able to buy your way out of your sins and whatever else they're doing at the time. But anyway, he didn't do it to form a new religion, but they ended up forming the Lutheran Church out of it as a consequence, right? So he came along and formed a better version of Catholicism in his view and the view of his followers, right? Now you can do the same thing. You can create a new category, right? Create a new religion, create a new martial art, create a new style of design. You want to be number one in your category. Now, we've had some people do it. Lisa Bixler created invisible design. So this is for people who don't want, it's aging in place, but they don't want their house to look like a hospital. So she created this new type of design called invisible design. Michelle Dempsey created a thing called strategic branded experiences. So this is for corporate clients who want their office space to reflect their brand, right? And she set up a whole design philosophy standards around that. Janine DeWall created a thing called Design DNA, which is her approach to design. Adrian Thomas, return on design. He nicknamed himself the ROI guy, right? Adrian Ramsey designed legacy estates. Johannes Wortmann, 3D masterpieces. These are all, Passive House is an example of this, right? But rather than joining someone else's one, you create your own. Now, what happens if you say, I do strategic branded experience design, right? What happens when you create that as a new design style? You become the only one in it, right? If you can sell them on strategic branded experience philosophy and design, then you're the only person they can go to because no one else is talking about it. And this is what we do, right? This is one way to consider doing it. So that's how you position yourself. Or select a niche to dominate, and then you position yourself as number one in it. Okay, now the issue is, your third problem stopping is you can't communicate your value. Okay, and that's Coco Chanel says, in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. Right, and to be different, you can create a new category. It's 4 times cheaper to be different than it is to be better. Well, sorry, 4 times cheaper to be different than to be better. Okay, there was a famous experiment where, this is Joshua Bell, he's playing here in the Philadelphia subway. You can see this on YouTube actually. And he played for something like 30 minutes. In that 30 minutes, he received about $32. And he was playing on a $3 million violin. Hardly anyone stopped to listen to him. They all just hurried past as they were walking by. He made $32. Several nights before, he'd been playing in the local big town hall or whatever it is that you're playing in, and tickets were $100, and it was a sold-out show. People didn't know. The only people that stopped were small children, stopped to listen. Now, the problem Joshua Bell had is the same in the subway, is the same problem you have, is that people don't see you as different to any other busker. You could be playing with your equivalent of a $3 million violin. And by the way, in this, when he was in the subway, he played a song which was one of the most intricate violin pieces ever written. What they were listening to was a virtuoso performance by an absolute star, but no one could tell because he was in the subway with a baseball hat on. You know, no one could tell, and this is your problem. So what you need is some form of $1 million message, some sort of form of message that communicates your value, right? Because if you don't, you're going to be seen as a commodity. If you do have $1 million message, a way to communicate, not just have that value, but communicate it, then you know exactly what to say to a specific high value client. You know their exact problem. You have a solution you can fix with their urgent problem. Their eyes light up instantly. Your value exactly matches their need, and your words are like poetry because it feels like it was written for them.